Ukrainian troops have struck the headquarters of the Russian Army's 40th Separate Guards Marine Brigade in Rylsk town in Kursk region, Ukrainian media reported. Deputy commander of the brigade Alexander Danilov was killed in the attack that was launched on May 11. Alexander Danilov was involved in Russia's full-fledged invasion of Ukraine since 2022. Earlier, he participated in Russia's military operations in Syria. Danilov is the latest of military officials eliminated by Ukrainian troops. Ukrainian army has scaled up missile and drone attacks on Russian military and strategic facilities in Ukraine as well as in Russian territory. It should be noted that Russian army announced in late April that it fully liberated its border Kursk region from Ukrainian control. However, a day after the announcement, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy said Ukraine's troops were still fighting in Russia's Kursk region.
Рylsk. Прямо дорогу въебали.
Все целы?
Целые?
Не, пострадавшие есть. Что там мужики?
The main intelligence directorate, GUR, of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has officially demonstrated for the first time the use of the 5V-28 anti-aircraft missile from the S-200 anti-aircraft missile system. As Defense Express analysts write, it took 2 years from the moment of its first known use, when a then unknown missile flew over Taganrog in July 2023, and more than a year to destroy Russian A-50 DRLV aircraft and a Tu-22M3 long-range bomber, which was shot down on April the 19th, 2024 at a record range of 308 kilometers. They note that the video released contains several important points that explain some aspects of the real resurrection of elements of the Soviet SAM system from the 1960s. In particular, the launch was carried out using a standard stationary FP-72V launcher and not, as was previously believed, a newly created mobile version. Moreover, the footage shows that these missiles were launched from these locations more than once, which is directly indicated by traces of the jet engines on the ground. At the same time, old launch positions were obviously used to launch these missiles, the experts write. According to them, all this shows how risky these operations were, because the launch pad is absolutely immobile and there is simply no way to escape from the attack. At the same time, preparations for the launch are carried out directly at this launch pad, during which the missile is filled with fairly toxic liquid fuel, which requires the use of a chemical protection suite. Analysts noted that the missile itself had not undergone any changes externally, but all possible changes concerned only the electronics, which could well have been redesigned. Possible options include using a different target illumination radar for the standard semi-active homing head, or installing a new active radar homing head, or optionally a passive one in the event of the A-50 being shot down, they concluded. In any case, the operations involving the use of 5V-28 by the Ukrainian Defense Forces are not only unique, but also significantly riskier than could have been previously imagined. The Times previously reported that the daring tactics of Ukraine's air defense, honed over several years of planning, dealt a significant blow to Russia's once dominant air force. Soviet-era missiles were used during the ambushes. a senior Ukrainian military intelligence officer revealed details of the joint operation with the Air Force to journalists. Thus, in May 2022, Ukraine decided to restore the S-200 system and use it at the front. First, they found officers who had previously operated these anti-aircraft missile systems and then engineers who could restore them. The first launch took place in the fall of 2023, but the missiles missed their targets due to a change in the A-50's flight trajectory. However, the military claimed that the operation still had positive effect. The Russian special operation on the border of the Bryansk and Sumy regions ended in tragedy for Russians. On the night of May the 11th, 2 servicemen of the Special Operations Forces of the Russian Armed Forces were killed as a result of an explosion on an improvised explosive device. This was reported by the Telegram channel Spy Dossier, known for its closeness to the Russian Special Services. A group of 4 fighters from the 2nd Directorate of the 322nd Special Operations Center was performing a combat mission near the state border of Ukraine and the Russian Federation. During an attempt to penetrate Ukrainian territory, a tripwire exploded, resulting in the death of 2 servicemen, Lieutenant Anatoly Luzgin, Lieutenant Dmitry Oshkin. Following the tragedy, the group's commander, known by the call sign G, decided to end the operation and retreat. The incident highlights the risks that Russian troops face when conducting sabotage operations in border areas. Experts note that yet another unsuccessful operation demonstrates the poor preparation of Russian sabotage groups and underestimation of the mine danger on the Ukrainian border. The attempted penetration resulted in serious losses and a forced retreat. Russian military sources have not yet commented on the incident, but the incident has already caused a stir on social media and among military experts. Attempts by enemy sabotage and reconnaissance groups continue. We record such actions most actively in the north of Sumy Oblast. Nonetheless, other sections of the border with Russia within Sumy Oblast are also at risk of hostile sabotage and reconnaissance groups entering the area. One of them was detected right near our border in Sumy Oblast. However, this is a different area than, for example, the section where the Ukrainian Defense Forces are conducting operations within Russia's Kursk Oblast. Therefore, the enemy will continue to use various tactics to try to enter our territory, said Colonel Andriy Demchenko, spokesman for the State Border Guard Service. Demchenko stressed that Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are trying to expose the structure of Ukrainian defenses, hit Ukrainian positions with their own assets and personnel, or mine the area. Meanwhile, the Russians are using small assault forces to amass forces on the territory of Ukraine and expand the area of active hostilities in the direction of Novenke and Zuravka. However, both Ukrainian border guards and regular units of the armed forces are targeting Russian infantry groups who have entered the territory of Ukraine or are still on the outskirts of the border. Demchenko added,